If you're ready, we're ready. Good afternoon and welcome to beautiful Belvedere Middle School. This middle school is an example of the new type of facility across Los Angeles Unified, thanks to the voters of our community who recently approved a $9 billion bond referendum to turn this type of school into a reality across all zip codes. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the presence of our president of the school board and vice presidents, Scott Schmerlson and Dr. Rocio Rivas. There are many individuals here today who will be addressing you, but I want to take the privilege of welcoming back to Los Angeles Unified the governor of the great state of California, Governor Gavin Newsom, and please twice the applause for first partner Partner Siebel Newsom. Folks, this week is going to be an interesting week. The state's going to lift the embargo of academic achievement tomorrow, so we'll talk about that tomorrow and Friday. But today, what brings us together is a celebration of an important piece of legislation that guarantees healthy eating for kids across the great state of California. Hungry kids can't learn well, and kids who are deprived from healthy, nutritious food lag behind other children. Eating healthy is a human right in the state of California. So let me begin by thanking Assemblyman Gabriel for your leadership and your commitment to the youth of individuals in our state of California. I'd like to also acknowledge the not-for-profit organizations, the for-profit organizations, and labor entities present here today. The work of educating children is everybody's responsibility, and you embody that spirit through the values and actions that you demonstrate every single day. The last point I'll make before I transition to the next speaker is this. This is an important bill. Eating towards a healthy state of body, of mind, of spirit is important for adults and certainly for our kids. Here's a remarkable statement. The provisions in this bill are already a reality in Los Angeles Unified, which means if LAUSD can do it, the entire state must do it. We appreciate being leaders in this space. And by the way, we're not paying more for breakfast, meals, or lunch or snacks as anybody else. We are buying healthy foods, locally sourced, in the way that the rest of the state, based on this bill, will now be compelled to do as well. Simply said, our kids eat food cooked in those kitchens. Our kids eat locally sourced fruits and vegetables. Our kids eat food without nitrites, nitrates, sulfites, coloring additives, or artificial sweeteners. This is not a dream. This is a reality whose time has come. It is the reality in Los Angeles and soon will be the reality across the state of California. Now, please help me welcome Mr. Scott Faber, Senior Vice President for the Environmental Working Group. Scott?
All right, well, thank you, Superintendent Carvalho. Foods that are high in fat, sugar, and salt, foods that have ingredients that are more likely to be found in a lab than in our pantries, foods that are engineered to hijack our kids' brains' reward centers have no place in our schools. This is really very simple. Food should make our kids healthy. Food should not make our kids sick. Processed foods are part of a healthy diet, but ultra-processed foods, or UPFs, are different from processed foods because they combine cosmetic ingredients and additives in ways that make our food literally irresistible, not just delicious. Today, California is once again making history. 2 years ago, California made history when the state enacted the California Food Safety Act, banning 4 food chemicals from all the food sold in the state. Last year, California made history by banning synthetic colors from school foods. Today, California will make history once again by enacting a first ever statutory definition of ultra-processed foods and by phasing out the worst of the worst UPFs from California's schools. In the years since California enacted the California Food Safety Act and the California Schools Food Safety Act, more than 30 other states have introduced similar legislation, and 6 states, Virginia, West Virginia, Utah, Arizona, Texas, and Louisiana, have enacted similar laws. This is what real leadership looks like. Thanks to you, kids all over the nation, not just kids in California, are being served healthier food. It's California that's making America healthier. I've been lucky to play a small part in crafting many state and federal food and farm laws, and I've rarely felt comfortable using the word historic. What is happening here today is truly historic. Thank you, Governor Newsom. Thank you, Assembly Member Gabriel. Thank you for making all of our kids your top priority. Now it's my pleasure to introduce California Health and Human Services Agency Secretary, Kim Johnson.
Well, I too agree that this is historic. It's an honor to stand here today, marking a moment where we are continuing our progress of a healthy California for all, as supported by a broad coalition of public health advocates, educators, parents. This bill reflects our shared commitment to ensuring that every child in California has access to food that fuels, not hinders, their growth, learning, and long-term health. Thank you to the many partners across school communities and health organizations, to Assemblymember Gabriel for his leadership, to the Governor and First Partner for their vision and commitment. And thank you to the California Health and Human Services Agency, and more specifically, the California Department of Public Health, who have joined the event today and who have marked, working in the nutrition division, that this is the most monumental policy change of their careers in their experience. All of these partners have brought this policy to life. Whether we look to universal school meals, removing dyes from those meals, as you just heard, or our summer nutrition programs like Summer EBT, California continues to lead in this space to actively take actions to address healthy foods based on science and to address food insecurity to support the healthy development of children. We do this because we know nutrition is a major contributor of 5 of the 10 leading causes of death in California. So this action is not only directly addressing the health and well-being of children today, but also impacts their future health and wellness. This sets a clear science-based standard for what we believe belongs and does not belong in our children's bodies. By phasing out foods high in nutrients and ingredients known to cause health harms, we are sending a powerful message that the health of our children is non-negotiable. This law empowers the California Department of Public Health to lead in a way in identifying the most harmful ultra-processed foods and guiding schools towards healthier alternatives. It also gives us the opportunity to model for the nation what it looks like to put children's health first. We are eager to start the work. It is now my great pleasure to introduce a true champion of healthy foods, of children and families, of mental health, and overall wellness, First Partner Jennifer Siebel Newsom.
Buenas tardes. Las comidas escolares son la principal fuente de lo que un niño comerá en un día. Cada plato servido es una oportunidad para alimentar el cuerpo y nutrir la mente del niño. Este es uno de los comienzos más importantes que podemos darles a nuestros hijos. Pero desafortunadamente, no todos los niños en los Estados Unidos tienen esa oportunidad. Hay mucho en juego. Estamos hablando de una generación de niños que crece en una época en la que la administración federal ha reducido drásticamente el acceso a las comidas escolares universales. Ha puesto fin a los programas de alimentos locales para las escuelas y compra local de alimentos, dos iniciativas que históricamente han hecho posible la compra de alimentos locales y frescos de granja para las escuelas y mucho más. Pero aquí en California no aceptamos menos de lo que nuestros niños merecen. Hemos creado la iniciativa de la granja a la escuela más grande del país, la primera en su tipo, y que ha conectado a más de 3 millones de niños con comidas frescas, locales y cada vez más regenerativas y orgánicas. Hemos establecido niveles más altos para lo que se sirve en las escuelas, prohibiendo los colorantes sintéticos y los aditivos alimentarios. A través de comidas universales, servimos 2 comidas gratuitas al día a cada estudiante sin hacer preguntas. Eso es muy importante. Y hoy marcamos otra primicia con la firma de AB 1264 que prohíbe los alimentos y bebidas ultraprocesados vinculados con consecuencias adversas para la salud en las escuelas de California. Así que, mientras Washington debate cómo hacer a América saludable de nuevo, no necesitan mirar más allá de California, donde ya hemos creado un plan y hemos demostrado éxito. Y no tengo duda de que California seguirá elevando el estándar porque el futuro ocurre aquí primero. Gracias. When I visit a California school garden, I see the future that we are always talking about, but it's already here in California. A group of school children tending to rows of kale and tomatoes, laughing, learning, and nurturing the soil that's growing their food. I see it again as those kids sit down in a cafeteria much like this to enjoy the produce from their school garden and local farmers. For too many children, school meals are the main source of their nutritional intake that they'll receive each day. That's why these meals are sacred. Every plate served is a chance to feed a child's body and nurture their mind. It is one of the most important starts in life, ask any mother, that we can give to our kids. But unfortunately, as we know, not every child in America is afforded this opportunity. The fact that healthy eating is considered a luxury in this country is simply unconscionable, and the stakes could not be higher. We are talking about a generation of young children growing up at a time when the federal administration has chipped away at eligibility for universal school meals, ended the local food for schools and local food purchase programs, 2 initiatives that have historically made local farm fresh food purchasing possible in the first place, and even eliminated federal funding for nutrition education and obesity prevention programs in every US state and territory. But here in California, we refuse to settle for less than what our children deserve. We built the largest and first of its kind farm to school program in the nation, connecting more than 3 million children with fresh, locally sourced, and increasingly regenerative organic foods. We've set higher standards for what's served in the schools, banning synthetic dyes and harmful food additives linked to hyperactivity and other health problems. And through universal meals, we serve at least 2 free meals a day to every student, no questions asked. So today we mark another first with the signing of AB 1264, prohibiting ultra-processed foods and beverages in California schools that are linked to adverse health consequences. Remember, California is where the organic foods movement was born, and it's where the environmental movement took root. That same spirit still drives us. The belief that stewardship belongs everywhere, from the air we breathe to the meals that we serve our children. And this isn't some West Coast utopian dream. It's a reality for the millions who call California home. For those whose livelihoods are tied to our state's thriving agricultural economy, and for the many who look to California as a model, replicating our environmental and agricultural standards and policies across the country and around the world. So while Washington debates how to make America healthy again, they need to look no further than California. We have already built a blueprint and shown what success can look like. And while our work is far from over, I have no doubt that California will continue to raise the bar for school food, because the future always happens here first. So it is my pleasure to introduce the next speaker, the author of this critical piece of legislation, Assemblymember Jesse Gabriel. Thank you, Jesse.
Good afternoon, and I want to thank the first partner for that kind introduction. As was mentioned, my name is Jesse Gabriel. I'm very proud to be the author of Assembly Bill 1264 and to represent the San Fernando Valley in the state legislature. And I'm thrilled to be here today with so many dignitaries for this historic moment. While AB 1264 was written and passed this year, today is the culmination of a 3-year journey to protect our kids. As a dad, I was shocked and incredibly frustrated when I first learned that the US lags far behind the rest of the world when it comes to protecting our kids from harmful additives. It made absolutely no sense to me. We don't love our kids any less than they love their kids in Europe or Asia or Latin America. So why would we offer them less protection from products linked to cancer and cardiovascular disease and reproductive harm? And so we began a journey to help change the national conversation around food safety and school nutrition. And that's exactly what we have done. Last session, Governor Newsom signed 2 landmark laws, one to ban the most dangerous additives and another to phase out harmful synthetic dyes from school meals. These 2 laws inspired similar legislation in more than 30 states and even prompted the FDA to finally take some important first steps. And today, with Governor Newsom's signature, California will again make history. AB 1264 will provide the first ever legal definition of what constitutes an ultra-processed food. And it will establish a science-based framework to remove the most dangerous ultra-processed foods from our schools. This new law will help California students by bringing more real, healthy, nutritious foods into our cafeterias. And it will incentivize manufacturers in ways that will have impacts far beyond our classrooms and beyond our borders. And that's why we work so hard to get it right. Like the 2 prior bills, AB 1264 is based on our winning formula: bipartisan, common sense, and science-based. In an era of fierce partisanship, AB 1264 passed the legislature with strong support from progressive Democrats and conservative Republicans. But what really distinguishes California's approach is that we are deeply rooted in science and research. And I want to thank the many doctors and scientists, as well as our partner Scott Faber and the amazing folks at EWG who helped us turn that science into sound, workable policy. And so while Washington, D.C. is paralyzed by inaction, California is once again leading the nation. While folks in D.C. are commissioning reports and debating hypotheticals, California is leading with decisive action. Or, to put it more bluntly, here in California, we are actually doing the work to protect our kids' health. And we've been doing it since well before anyone had ever heard of the MAHA movement. Here in the Golden State, parents across the political spectrum are joining forces because for many of us, this work is deeply personal. It's personal because we love our kids more than anything. It's personal because we know that what our kids eat is deeply connected not only to their physical health, but also to their mental health and their emotional well-being. It's personal because we believe the scientists and the doctors who have been sounding the alarm about the dangers of ultra-processed food. And it's personal because we believe that our kids deserve healthy, nutritious meals that are made from real foods, not harmful chemical additives. And so with that, let me again thank Ken, Scott, Bernadette, Ryan, and the entire EWG team, my friends Todd Wagner, Kat Taylor, and Nora Latorre for their advocacy, Consumer Reports, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the numerous Democratic and Republican co-authors, as well as the farmers, ranchers, and food service professionals who helps us strengthen this bill. I also want to acknowledge the talented professionals in the governor's office and the California Department of Public Health, as well as my incredible staff, Elle, Genevieve, Noah, Alicia, and Abram, for their hard work on this bill. And most important, I want to personally thank Governor Newsom for his leadership and his political courage. The governor recognized long before most that this was important, and he was willing to stand up and be counted, even when some were mocking California. And so it is because of his willingness to do what is right before it was popular that we are here today. And with that, I am pleased to introduce Governor Gavin Newsom. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Well, this is one of those moments where there's not much more I can add except a signature to this important piece of legislation. But I would like to just briefly pick up on a little bit of what the Assemblymember was saying. And in the spirit of Jen's final comments, my wife, where she talked about the future happening here first, where America's coming attraction. That's a point of pride. And it's also a point of privilege to acknowledge the leadership of LA Unified School District and the superintendent's leadership in this space. And I'm grateful to be here with you in LA. We talk about cities and counties, districts being laboratories of innovation, states laboratories of democracy. And that future tends to be bottom up, not necessarily top down. And I think that's the journey that we've been on as it relates to the foods movement in this state. And it's a movement that, if I may just briefly mention, goes back for me many decades now. When I was on the front lines of a controversy that at the time I didn't even fully embrace or understand. I thought that my involvement in marriage equality was controversial, but nothing prepared me for the controversy that ensued after I became the mayor responsible for the first city requirement on composting. You'd have thought the sky had fallen in. The world had come to an end, and that sort of woke me up to this space in this movement. And of course, in my face, in my space, was a constant presence, not just my wife, then dating her at the time, but people like Alice Waters and others that said, you've got to lead in the Bay Area in particular. You have a responsibility. She introduced me to Carlos Petroni, who was leading an international effort on the slow foods movement. And they did a big international conference in San Francisco where we converted the Civic Center into what we refer to as a victory garden or organic garden. And we actually harvested the garden, not just for food banks, but specifically for homeless individuals. It was, not surprisingly, mocked with the primetime lineup. At the time, I got to my first taste of someone by the name of Bill O'Reilly on Fox News that was mocking those efforts and mocking the fact that we followed that up with a requirement that we had salad bars. We didn't even think about what would be in those salad bars, but we required salad bars in some of our public middle schools. And so I've long believed in this, and that journey, of course, accelerated, as is often the case when you have kids. And you appreciate, that, well, first of all, you appreciate how the heck we all survived what we were eating back in the day, but how these folks, can thrive eating what they're eating today. And so that's the privilege, the opportunity to be here and to lay claim to some accountability to step things up. We did that, as it was noted, the first day in the country to require 2 free universal meals without the stigma and shame of how much money you have or don't have, which was probably the most important part of that first in the nation requirement as it relates to school meals. The work that we did because of Jesse's leadership, incredible leadership a few years ago, where we were mocked by the heir apparent of Bill O'Reilly. This time, I think it was Jesse Waters. Forgive me, Jesse, if it wasn't you, on the Skittles ban, where they had fun with us on the Fox primetime lineup. I have a feeling that's what Jesse was referring to in terms of at times how we're not fully understood when we were talking about brominated vegetable oil. No one understood it, but when we started talking about Skittles, somehow everyone got upset and offended. Now everyone's jumping over each other, Louisiana, all these conservative states trying to get in on this, which is sort of interesting and I think wonderful at the same time. And that's another point the Assembly member said that I think needs to be reinforced, the bipartisan nature of this. Finally, everyone waking up that it's not a finger to point, it's not a fist to throw around, it's an open hand, that we're all in this together, we're all better off, we're all better off. And it's a movement that should unite all of us, regardless of political stripes. And I'll close on this. It's a movement that we have a requirement to advance. After all, this is the breadbasket. This is California. A third of the nation's vegetables come from our state. 3/4 of fruits and nuts from the state of California. We're so proximate to this bounty. And the idea that we are ordering food from overseas, processed, that comes back here when we have this abundance in our own backyard seem rather absurd. And that brings me back to my wife. I just want to thank Jen for her leadership, particularly on the farm to school efforts in the last number of years. You know, we backed that up because of Jesse's leadership and Mark, who's here as well, with $850 million, additional incremental investments to build an infrastructure for healthy meals. That includes hundreds of millions of dollars for infrastructure on equipment and supplies to actually build out facilities like the facility you see here so we can prepare healthy meals, to make sure we have refrigeration, to make sure we build a network and we integrate that network with our farmers. And we've built that as part of a larger narrative with our healthy soils and our regenerative ag initiative, over $1 billion additionally invested in that space. And Jen, I just want to acknowledge her leadership in that space because there's not been a budget where she hasn't first asked me, what did you put in to enhance those initiatives? And so it's right that you're here and flew down for this and take pride in celebrating Scott's remarkable leadership, to Mark Wagner and so many others that have demanded more of us. But to Assemblymember Gabriel, you keep leading in this space, you keep winning in this space, and I got to say, I'm looking forward to next year's bill signing because I know the best is yet to come. Thank you all very, very much. With that, let's sign this. Who's going to take
Thank you again. I just want to applaud the Assembly member for his leadership and stewardship of this process. Again, a few years ago, we were truly on the leading and cutting edge of some of these conversations, and it is, I think, a very positive development in this country to see more progress in this space, broader understanding, deeper recognition of how much harm we've done, how much damage we've done to ourselves and our bodies, and the challenges we continue to face in chronic disease, how we can mitigate and prevent it, and how this is part of our healthcare delivery. One of the things that's unfortunate about what's happening across this country is while they're asserting one thing in terms of making America healthy again, they're doing something radical on the other side of that, the most significant cutbacks, the most consequential rollbacks of healthcare coverage in American history, with premiums that are about to double, 97% on average for Californians. We expect 600,000 Californians to lose their health coverage in January, 600,000 that can no longer afford health coverage if the big beautiful bill and its impacts on Obamacare and the elimination of these subsidies go away. And so you can't do one without the other. And I think what makes me most proud of what the Assembly members are doing and what our Secretary has done is that we have a comprehensive strategy to healthcare. And then, by the way, includes the environment, which is a huge part of the air we breathe, the water we drink. So it's just not good enough to make a case against ultra-processed foods unless you're making a case for a healthcare delivery system and preventative care and making a case for integrating these values and these principles. So I think California is a model. We're hardly perfect. No one's naive. There are tremendous challenges, but this is a big part of our effort. And final point on this, and before we open up to questions, we opened shortly after we became the first state in the U.S. to provide universal health care, regardless of pre-existing conditions, ability to pay, and your status. We also opened an office of healthcare affordability. It's not gotten the kind of attention I think it deserves. It's actually created some numeric targets to reduce healthcare costs. It's also a component part of CalRx and the work we're doing to start providing our own drugs like insulin. We're going to, by the way, make a big announcement on that next week. A little bit of a preview in that space. We've done it for naloxone. We're looking at the diaper space, et cetera, to lower the cost, not subsidize cost, but to actually lower the cost of production and cost to the taxpayers in the state. But the Office of Healthcare Affordability has a numeric target as well for healthy foods. And I don't think there's anything comparable anywhere in the country that we are truly focusing on health care, not sick care. We're truly focused on a preventative care model. And a big part of that is the healthy foods initiatives. And a big part of that is the work that is going to be entrusted over the course of the next few years at the Department of Public Health to identify what are currently thousands and thousands and thousands of these additives that, by the way, do not exist in the European Union and many other parts of the globe that somehow we've allowed to exist and persist here through neglect. And California will be leading the nation. FDA will do their part. I don't have confidence ultimately where that goes, but I do have confidence where these folks go over the course of the next few years. So I just want to add that to broaden, I hope, the appeal and the comprehensive nature of what we're advancing and announcing here today. With that, we're here as well to answer any questions.
Governor, on that note of the healthcare policy, what do you say to Republicans who are tying this shutdown? They're calling it a referendum on healthcare for immigrants and similar policies that immigrants in California.
Well, they're lying. They're just lying. I don't think it needs any deeper explanation. They are lying. They made it up. And it just shows how, I mean, not only sort of desperate, pathetic to knowingly lie to the American people, particularly people in positions of power and influence, the Speaker himself, not just the President of the United States, though that's just, every minute of every hour of every day. But it also shows how wrong they are and the overwhelming, now bipartisan opposition to these massive increases in healthcare costs that are going in effect in January. And by the way, I mentioned 600,000 people in the state of California. We think that is a conservative number. We actually ran 3 different surveys on this to come up with that number. We put that out, published that a number of months ago. It's over 4 million people that they conservatively estimate nationwide. We were looking just at the Anthem Bronze Plan. This is something familiar with people on the California exchange, the Bronze Plan. Right now, if you're on the Bronze Plan, it's about $307. It's going to go up to $964. $307 a month to $964. We're talking about 100% increase across the board in the aggregate, but some people are living with triple-digit increases. This is jaw-dropping, and people are finally starting to understand that. That's why they're desperate to paint a different picture. But again, they're lying.
Governor, can you talk about the timeline on the law you just signed?
Yeah.
It's a couple of years before the phase-out kicks in, and then it's almost 7 years before the ban kicks in.
Yeah, so it's a multi-year process that on July 1st of 2029, we'll move forward with the first phase, where we are in the process of moving away from the ultra-processed food definitions that are being put together by staff and are being organized in a very deliberative way. So we're giving this sort of 3-year window of opportunity. By the way, the bill, to Jesse's credit, the author's credit, every 5 years will reassess the status of those reviews and provide an additional 3-way pathway to continue that phase out. So it's ample time. There's 50 amendments through this process. We can get into the sausage making here, but it is nonetheless a nation-leading effort, and I think was done, and forgive me, I'll ask the author to speak, in an extraordinarily responsible way and responsive to the concerns that we were way ahead of our skis, meaning those amendments, I think, reflected a pragmatic approach to advance this ideal.
Yeah, the governor is exactly right. The goal here was to do this in a thoughtful, nuanced, and pragmatic way. And so as the governor mentioned, the bill will go into effect. Schools will have to start to phase out those harmful ultra-processed foods in 2029, but we give them a little bit of a runway to comply with that. And that is something that we decided to do because of feedback that we got from school districts, from school nutrition professionals, from researchers, from the department. So we want this to be done in a thoughtful, workable way to do sound policy. And so giving that little flex in the system will allow school districts to do that. But we think that a lot of school districts, because of the way that procurement works, are going to be fully compliant with the bill well in advance of the final deadline, and that our kids are going to be getting the healthy, nutritious, real foods that they deserve shortly after 2029.
But that doesn't, and I think this is important, you've seen this with multiple other strategies the state has advanced, including, by the way, just on the cell phone ban. That was a 2-year phase in, and we saw the vast majority of districts move much sooner. So our hope and expectation, you heard from the superintendent here in LA Unified School District and how they've made a lot of progress. I know other school districts, similar progress, that you can see districts move much more quickly beyond that statewide ban. But we're looking at a system that's unlike any system in the United States. It's 1,050 school districts and 58 counties. This is the largest system of its type. And so one size doesn't fit all, and we have to be sensitive and mindful to those districts that may need a little extra time.
Governor, your reaction to the arrest made today, the election of the Palisades Fund?
Well, I mean, I want to thank the ATF. I want to thank the Department of Justice for a job well done, and the work that was done initially through the investigations unit at LA Fire Department as well. And so we're pleased. Now, there's a process here. One falls, he's accused of this crime. If indeed it is, this suspect is ultimately held accountable. That at least, I think, calms the fear and anxiety that some people felt around what and who was responsible and how this actually occurred. There are a lot of theories, a lot of thoughts, a lot of conspiracies as well out there. And so hopefully this lands some clarity in that respect. Beyond that, I just want to give you a little heads up. There's an important report that's coming out about our preparedness and about our response. You may recall a number of months back, we announced the nation's leading group, the FSRI group, which is the Fire Response Research Institute. They are putting out a 2-part report an independent report on preparation and response. The first phase of that report is coming out the week of October 20th. It will not be about the ignition, but it will be about preparation and response. And again, it's the first phase of a two-phase report that was promised, not just promoted, a number of months ago. And so all of these things are instructive, as will be the review of what is the accused may or may have not done, whether or not these embers that allegedly were still brewing underground, what could be done as it relates to any lessons learned in that respect. We saw similar things. We've seen a lot of fire starts over the years. Oakland Hills, there were some similar versions of this. I've seen some others, some other larger fires, particularly in the root system of a lot of these larger forest fires. But all those things are going to be important.
Just a quick follow-up to that point. When it comes to the reignition here today, we saw that they made a clear link this morning between that fire that started January 1st, smoldered underground, then reignited to burn down much of the Palisades. People in the Palisades are speaking out today, specifically on social media that I saw, said that the city, county, the state may be liable here. Are you concerned about potential liability?
Well, I think they found the arsonist, and we'll look at the investigation and what backed up this indictment, and then we'll look at the facts and judge on the basis of those facts. And there's when it comes to the issue of fire liability, I know a thing or two, going back to Paradise and the process that unfolds there, and how this is done without political interference, and how the facts need to be pursued without any bias or political interference. And I just want to know the facts, period. And ultimately, then we'll judge culpability. Those facts are not only being assessed as it relates to this indictment by the federal government of this alleged arsonist, but obviously those facts are currently being reviewed as it relates to the fire in Altadena as well. And so I just want to leave it at that until we get all those details.
Last question.
Well, that is, for you guys, remarkable. I'm going to take advantage of this and wish you all a great weekend. Well, I hope it gives some closure as it relates to some of the anxiety that may have been felt. How did this happen? Who's responsible? Can this happen again? What lessons we learn? So at least from that perspective, a little bit of closure. That said, it's cold comfort for those who lost their homes and are coming through the recovery. What I do say is that we need to really now, I think, call out why the President of the United States and Congress has refused to provide support to those that have been victimized by this arsonist and this devastation. $39 billion for months and months and months. And the President of the United States has said nothing. Speaker of the House said he's not interested in helping the American people that were devastated, lives torn asunder here in Los Angeles. I mean, where is the accountability in that respect? Where's the spirit that defines the best of this country? To be here for fellow Americans in the time of recovery, uncertainty. It's been months, not a peep from the President of the United States, not a word from Speaker Johnson. I was proud as a taxpayer, as an American, to have Speaker Johnson's back when his district in his state was devastated by floods. I said the same thing to Greg Abbott as we sent him personnel and support because he needed it with the devastation of the flood. That I'm proud that our tax dollars, disproportionately California's tax dollars, will be used to help support the recovery in Texas. That's what makes America great. Not a word from the Republican Party, not a word from Speaker Johnson, not a word from the President of the United States. I applaud the work that initiated under the Biden administration in this investigation and the work that this administration did as it relates to finding this person and ultimately pushing these charges and making these charges. But I find it shameful that they haven't done a damn thing for the thousands of people who lost their homes and whose lives were devastated from this disaster. Not a word from the President of the United States.
Thank you, everyone. Please hold.